Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for August 30th, 2024. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also here are Ralph Kohler sharing their screen, Randy Ost, Thomas Howell, and Simo Helston. Go ahead, Ralph.
We are looking at issue number 2118081. Unmet module requirements are too hard to find on admin modules. It's basically about, at the moment, if you have a module with unmet module requirements, for one, the checkbox is disabled and the the details element is basically collapsed, and therefore it's not directly apparent what the actual problem is. Oops, just reload it for demonstration purposes. That's the way. So basically, you have a grayed out checkbox and it's collapsed. And if you expand it, in that case, it's an incompatibility with Drupal 11. And the suggestion, the proposed resolution is possibly expand the module information automatically when there are missing requirements. Aside that, there is not really any other suggestion or nor discussion. That's basically the status quo. Any questions?
Yeah, first, any questions about what the issue is about? And also, I see that Andrei Zvonkov has just joined us.
No questions about what the issue is.
Okay. So is this a good idea? Is there a better implementation? Pros, cons? Go ahead, Ralph.
In regards of the suggestion, for one, I'm not sure if expanding the requirements would have enough affordance that the user won't gloss over and miss the important details anyway. And nor it would provide much of a difference or improvement from my perspective. And on the other hand, there's also the point about, the disabled checkbox grayed out could also missed just based on the color contrast. And one thought I had was one option might be go with a warning message, but from my perspective, take a completely different angle in the context of Project Browser on the horizon. And we've had one issue about the install and uninstall module page. And there, for the uninstallation, we suggested in one of the child issues to basically take the path that Drush a PMU uses. So you're able to uninstall something in one take. And why not simply with Package Manager and Project Browser available, do something similar here, the other way around. Basically have no disabled checkboxes on the extend page anymore. And in case there are some, for example, like here, incompatibility, then it's impossible. But for example, if there's a dependency missing, simply provide the opportunity to actually install it. So meaning you check the checkbox and you maybe get a step with a confirmation message saying, hey, Composer will now require a dependency that is missing and not on your file system yet. And that way it would be way more actionable and more convenient.
Okay. So you're suggesting that we don't try to fix it on this page, but rather hope that the project browser will give a better user experience.
No, I mean on that page. So meaning Project Browser or technically Package Manager should do the heavy lifting behind the scenes, and everything should stay on that extend page.
I see. So even if you don't have the project browser enabled, or even if it's enabled, but you're looking at this page rather than the browse page, let the package manager install modules from source
Yeah.
as well as enable them.
But yeah, it doesn't cover the case of an incompatibility. That way would have to be covered, but at least those that are mentioned in the issue summary of something missing. For example, an external dependency, that way it would be covered.
Okay. Randy, what do you want to say?
So my thought on this was to take inspiration from the available updates, and available updates very clearly like marks with green, yellow, and red, as well as some iconography and text. If there's like an update available, if it's up to date, if there's like not supported. And I think that if we wanted to update this, I would take inspiration from that to maybe apply here. Like it would be really great to have like, a red circle with a red line through it to indicate that there's a problem. And a little snippet of like text. Like see there in the upper right hand corner, it says not supported, and then we've got up to date. I think if we did something like that, that would help communicate to users that there's a problem with that particular module. I don't know what the language would be, or maybe, the visual language or the text, but I would want to take my inspiration from this because it's a system that's already inside of Drupal. And I would just want to repeat that pattern. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, so perhaps instead of expanding it by default, find some visual clue to make it a little easier to find. Is that your idea?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thomas?
I wanted to reinforce Ralph's concern about this not being the right approach. I keep on thinking about sites with lots and lots of modules where there's just so much noise going through that. And seeing everything expanded doesn't seem like a positive solution. I think of it as a white space type solution. I don't like using white space and having meaning in the white space. So I don't like opening it and then someone's supposed to be able to understand that the reason all these things are open every time they go to this page, that that they need to act on it or that it means something special. I get that it's supposed to be helpful, but it just adds a lot of noise to the information, and so I don't like the current solution. I could get behind either the ones that have been suggested, or we could continue to explore other options. But I would definitely go back and say that this solution isn't one that I support. Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I've certainly seen sites where there are lots and lots of module dependencies listed, and if you were to open up even a few of them because of a missing dependency, it would make the page really difficult to navigate. Go ahead, Simo.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar to this one with a background color and icon and text. But also I noticed that one of the things we do with modules, we have shown that like on the extend page, we show modules that are deprecated. So we could also use that similar style to that deprecated information that's for telling that it's incompatible. So similar style would be another option.
So let's see, I think we're looking at Drupal 11 here. So all the deprecated modules have already been removed. Maybe I can prepare a link with Drupal 10 and have a look at that in a couple of minutes. But Thomas, you want to say something more?
Um, I didn't know if we go to the top of the page, is there filtering or things that we can do that allow us to easily access? So I know there's the filter by name or description, but it would be nice if there was like a checkbox at the top that was for whatever the condition is, whatever we want to call it. Like you check the box and it just shows you things that are disabled and we can't enable for whatever reason. So for me, I always find being able to filter on that type of category to be very, very helpful, because then at the very least, I get a quick view of everything that's out of date, for instance, or everything that needs to be changed.
So you're thinking that adding something at the top of the page is going to make it easier to find by filtering. I think the rest of us are thinking in terms of sort of a visual clue in the line to suggest that you open up the details element.
Right. I was just like, because the reason I would be looking at something in particular would be because I was trying to think about updating the site or needing to maybe get rid of that module and find an alternative for it. And so being able to see everything that needed that type of action is the type of filtering and sorting that I tend to do. So for me, that is how I operate. I don't know if anyone else would. But like I'm thinking again, I've got lots and lots of modules, but today I'm going through the site and I'm trying to figure out what it is I need to update. Having to scroll and then find something that I have to operate on and then scroll and then find something I have to operate is tedious. I like being able to just include or exclude. So I guess a checkbox is a bad thing, but like I'd show everything, show it with the things that are deprecated and show it without the things that are deprecated. And I don't think deprecate is the right term, because there may be other conditions where it's been grayed out, but whatever the grayed out condition is, what we call it, I'd like to be able to look at it in those three views, like show me everything, show me all the stuff without things that I'm not going to worry about, and show me all the things, because that reduces the amount of information I have to process on the page. Because the grayed out boxes are things I can't use, can't do anything about, at least in the current page. And so I either want to be able to think about acting on them, or I want to be able to exclude them because I'm not worried about it today.
Okay, that seems like a sort of a related suggestion, but maybe out of scope for the current issue. But
Sure.
Ralph, go ahead.
One question to Simo. Do you mean add something similar like deprecated for basically modules that are missing a dependency? So in parentheses,
Yeah.
for example, missing, for example, yeah, okay. Yeah, that would be a good idea. And I sort of also like Thomas's point to provide some sort of filtering so that you, yeah, able to filter only for deprecated modules and for example, modules that are missing any dependencies. Yeah, that basically the list is just reduced because, for example, if you take a look at Drupal CMS, if you have, I don't know, a list of 3 or 4 times the size of this one, then spotting any deprecated or missing modules becomes sort of, yeah, a needle in a haystack problem. And having something that is just reducing the number of modules to the ones just in question, where those things apply, not the worst idea. Let's put it that way. So something to consider from my point of view as well. But yeah, out of the scope probably for this issue.
So how did you get an example of a deprecated module? I thought you were looking at Drupal 11.
The one that that deprecated module is basically a feature. I forgot the term. It's something. It's actually not really a module. It's a feature flag.
Huh.
It's basically a feature flag, that one.
All right.
And the
Anyway.
other is from admin toolbar.
Okay. So they're contrib modules.
Only the admin toolbar. The other one is in core, the feature
Okay.
flag.
All right. I stand corrected. So yeah, adding some filters to this page, I think that's a reasonable idea. Again, I think it's out of scope. I also think that we've talked about that in the context of the project browser, and it's been a long discussion there. So I guess it's more complicated than it seems at first blush. So just to control scope, and I get a thumbs up from Thomas on that, just to control scope, let's think in terms of what we might do, just to add some visual clues here. As Randy suggested, maybe we should use the little X in a circle icon that we're already using on the available updates report. Is there some way we could clue that that they should expand the details? And you know, as I say this, I still think that perhaps this is just a won't fix issue. You know, a details element, we're using the standard HTML element. I don't see that it's so unclear that that you should expand a details element to get more information. I'm not sure that there is a problem here that needs to be fixed, but if we can make it a little more clear, then then let's do it. Go ahead, Randy.
I think if we want to keep this simple, the entire strip from the checkbox on the left to the details block on the right, that entire area could be shaded red like it is in the report, the updates report. And then we could add icon, text, and then the rest of the details like label. Like right now, when enabled this module, blah, blah, blah. If we did that, that would keep this pretty light of a lift while like, you know, making a change that communicated.
So I'm sorry, you're suggesting, for example, do we have an example on this page where it's actually disabled?
I don't think so.
Maybe not.
Oh,
Okay.
there. Yeah. So that the strip from the disabled checkbox, the entire background of it could be a light red, like it is in the update report.
And then you'd want to add an icon and text.
We could potentially add an icon and text to prepend before the details expander, where it says this version is not compatible. It could potentially prepend that.
That's a little much.
That is definitely not the right color for that.
Okay, so you want to, this is of course a table, right? And you want to color the background of the table element containing the module title or module name.
The table row, yes.
The whole row?
The whole row.
Okay.
Again, I want to pull in the same things that we're doing in available updates.
Okay, so you give a colored background to the whole row, and then instead of the standard icon for the details element, you want to say, open this for more information or something like that?
I would continue to have the standard icon, that caret up or caret down. I would just want to add an icon and text before this version that's maybe in red that could be used to communicate, like, you know, like like incompatibility, or like if we wanted to throw a flag. We could also not have that icon in text and just have that background to be red and let people click the button to expand.
Okay.
Rolf's suggestion of replacing the disabled checkbox with the icon from the update page would also be good.
Yeah, we all know that disabled form elements, such as these disabled checkboxes, are in general a bad idea. We've been saying that for a long time. That's an interesting suggestion. I wonder how hard it would be to implement. But we have the luxury of not worrying about implementation in these meetings. Go ahead, Thomas.
Not to be a negative Nelly, but I really despise the update page. I find that it only works for me because it's only a few pieces of information. I hate the fact that I can't turn that red off. I can't turn the yellow off on things where I've made some decision as a site administrator and it is not red warning, I don't want that. So like with this particular example, it's valid, but there's a lot of times where you're making a choice to not make a change to the updates page, and I can't control that. And it's a long outstanding complaint of mine. So to port that behavior over here into another page is not something that I'd want to see. Adding an icon, I could get behind that, or changing the grayed out checkbox, changing that behavior, but I don't like making a lot of color. It just becomes additional noise that doesn't provide information if I'm not going to act upon it because I've made a valid choice and I can't undo that red. So I don't like that suggestion.
Okay. Any new ideas at this point, or do we just have to choose between the ideas that we've already presented? Okay, so what are our choices at this point? So one is do nothing. Another is just replace the disabled checkbox with a red X. Another is to color the whole row with a pink or a light red background, and possibly also add some text or an icon to make the details elements a little more obvious. That's 3 options. Are there any others I should be listing at this point? And go ahead, Thomas.
The original suggestion that I made in terms of filtering, to do the filtering, you would add an additional column that had metadata in it. So there would be a column that would say like incompatible rather than embedding it in one of these 2 columns that currently exist. So adding a 3rd column with metadata control information on this data something.
Would we also move deprecated information to there?
Yeah,
If we
it
had
would be incompatible, deprecated, whatever we wanted. Not worrying about implementation or what would be best, because I think there needs to be testing to see if that would even work. But the suggestion being, because then you could filter on that column, that would need to be a separate piece of metadata. So ignore the filtering, that is out of scope for this, but simply moving it over, adding a column of information.
Okay, but I think what Simo is asking is that we already have an indication that this module is deprecated. Would you want to move that? So remove it from where it currently is and add it to your new proposed column?
I would move everything over there because you would then train, like incompatible is hidden. And so for me, I would make incompatible or something along those lines, like whatever the overriding concern, whatever we wanted to talk about, it means that you're putting it into a standardized space. That's the suggestion. I don't know that it's better, but that's what would be necessary at a line by line, from a line by line position to allow the type of filtering that I'd want in a follow-up issue.
Okay, and Randy has prepared a couple of mock-ups for us, and Ralph is looking at them.
And I just want to say, like, adding a third column is also perfectly valid. I just happen to know that I could put these comps together pretty quick.
Yeah, thanks.
One question about being incompatible and being deprecated. So are those both attributes of a specific module version, or is one attribute to the module as a whole and the other one an attribute to a specific version of the module?
Oh, good question. Yeah, I think the deprecated flag is actually in the info.yaml of the module. So it could be added or possibly removed in later versions. Yeah, typically, once it's deprecated, it doesn't get removed. So I would say that deprecated is certainly dependent on the module version. And incompatible, I would say, is also related to the version.
So it's basically the same, how do you say, area of effect for both of them.
I'm sorry, the same what effect?
Yeah, so they are kind of in the same scope, being deprecated and being incompatible
Yes.
with the current version. So it's kind of, it fits in the same column.
Yes, I think so. Okay, so I guess 4 options. Do nothing. Just replace the checkbox with some other icon. The more extensive change that that we're looking at now, that Randy suggested. Have I lost track of one? That's only 3 options.
Additional column of metadata.
Okay, right. That's the new option we're considering, an additional column of metadata. So so the issue, the motivation for the issue is that, gee, I see that it can't be installed. I need some visual clue to tell me to open up the details element. Do any of these address that issue? Obviously the do nothing option doesn't address that. If we just replace the disabled checkbox with some other icon, does that make it clearer that to get more information, you should open the details element?
I did a comment on the chat, basically saying that if we just add an icon and maybe a color background, then the user might be mistaken to believe that the icon and color is there because the module is deprecated, and not knowing that it's there because of the module is incompatible with the version. So it should be clear what causes the possible icon and color change. And if the details element is closed, the only kind of, in this view, the only difference would be that it's marked deprecated.
Right. So that's closely related to the question I was asking, that, we are not encouraging the user to open the details element, which is what they have to do to get that information. Um, so the do nothing option, the icon option, the coloring, none of these really seems to me to address the initial problem that I don't know that I'm supposed to open a details element to get more information. Adding a new column to the table. I think it's a reasonable thing to consider, but again, I don't see that it really helps draw attention to this details element. Feel free to disagree. Feel free to argue in favor of any of these options. Go ahead, Thomas.
If we ignore the additional column as an option for me, I prefer the do nothing because I don't want to be forced to have lots and lots of extra information, and I can't get past the if the reason to open the details element is to get additional information, but if you provide information overload because you've got 20 or 30 of these all open, then it defeats its entire purpose. Like, I think there has to be some level of trust in the site administrator to want to know the information. And so either we're making a choice to let them know that there's something special about this row that they then have to stop and think. And I don't know, like I think all of these things run the risk of becoming background noise. I think to a certain extent, this may be a problem that we can't fix if we're really focused on encouraging people to read the information in that details element. And that's, we're not just trying to get them to open it, we're trying to get them to comprehend what's in there, in my opinion.
Okay. And, I guess I didn't list as one of the options the proposed solution on the issue, which is to open it by default. Is there anyone who thinks that that's a viable option? I'm not hearing anyone. I'm not seeing any
Yeah.
thumbs up or anything.
Agree. I was just gonna actually, my 2 cents is, my question was, why are they actually closed in the first place? I've looked through the few and it seems like some of them, there's not a lot of more additional information in terms of when you click on open the tab. And I also often look for that configure myself personally, like for the configure link on some provided with some of these modules. So that's another reason for maybe, in my mind, for it to be not hidden or not to have an extra click. And I feel like actually scrolling through the thing, even though there's more, like vertically, there's more stuff taken up by the list, but I'd actually rather see stuff and scroll through it as opposed to have an extra click to open the tab. That's just my 2 cents.
So you're actually thinking open every single one of these details elements
Yeah,
by default.
yeah. I mean, to me, it almost seems better. Yeah.
I mean, Thomas and I both agree that we've seen sites where the list of module dependencies gets very long. This often happens when sites have feature modules, and there are lots and lots, and it really does get overwhelming. It can be like 6-10 lines listing module dependencies for each of several modules. And Ralph has been waiting to say something.
Oh, thank you. I think you're right that none of the 4 options really is solving the initial problem the issue is about. I think technically an improvement would be only so far the two suggestions that are out of the scope for this issue. One, providing a filter option for site administrators to deliberately filter for modules that have, for example, a deprecation or a missing dependency or something alike. That would be helpful from my perspective. And on the other hand, I still think with the option of, in the case of a missing dependency, provide the option to simply auto install it by package manager. That would also, at least half of the issues would be obsolete that way. And one last point in regards of the visual representation of the modules page, something we've taken a look last week's. The question I have is why we need technically a details element, or at least it could be used for cases like you've suggested, you've mentioned Benji or Thomas's, with 7 lines of dependencies. Then it makes sense for those dependencies. But aside that, simply have everything in a 2-liner, like WordPress does. That way it's rather clear. You have a situational awareness, and in Drupal, half of the information is hidden underneath in the details element.
So there's currently a lot of information in Drupal that's not WordPress. We have permissions, configuration, links. That's one line. There's the version information that I see here in your WordPress. But then there's that dependency list, required by and requires, both of which can be very, very long. Here it's only barely onto a second line, but it's often many more lines. Thomas?
I was just going to make an attempt at a comedic comment. By showing WordPress, you're showing what I want. Because like from the filtering perspective, if you look at that WordPress page, it has precisely what I was asking for. Right below plugins, you can filter upon the categories of things that you want. So for me, one of them would be deprecated, or would be a wrong version, like incompatible with the version. Like I would just, that's where I'd put that information. And so that is precisely what I was asking for. And so I feel like you're teasing me, that's all.
Okay, yes. We can certainly borrow ideas from outside of Drupal, and WordPress has a lot of good ideas for user interface. And I noticed the WordPress page also includes update information on the same page, rather than having a separate tab for update information. I also noted if you go back to the issue page, it's a very old issue. You know, it was opened by Kathy Tays, who, by the way, was one of the earliest winners of the Aaron Winborn Award. Can you look at the issue, please?
I'm looking at the issue.
Wrong issue. Maybe I'm not seeing what you're looking. Oh, no. You're right. This is the right page. Sorry, my bad. If you scroll down, there are 2 comments from Kathy shortly after she opened it, and then a whole lot of no interest until it was added to the Bug Smash initiative. And, one, this issue doesn't seem to have a lot of interest. And two, it was made with a much older version of Drupal. This issue was created in 2013. I don't think we were using details elements. In fact, was there a details element in HTML in 2013? I think that, triangle icon in the screenshot in the issue summary was a bit of custom markup. So basically, I'm advocating for closing this issue as obsolete. And I actually looking at it a little more closely, I see it was reported by XJM and then got 2 comments from Kathy or Yes CT. And that my preference is to close it as a won't fix, to say that the details element communicates the information that this issue is asking for. And so it may have been an issue when we were using custom markup, but now that we're using a standard details element, I don't think we need to do anything here. Anyone care to advocate for one of the other options?
Just on a side note, I just checked one live Drupal 7 site and for what kind of details or more information element it has, and apparently it doesn't have anything. It just lists everything as it's bit crowded here. But yeah, so some of the admin themes, at least with 7, or is this actually theme 7, didn't have any expand option in the setting I have here. So yeah.
Sima, would you like to share your screen and show us what you're looking at?
So this one doesn't actually have any way to kind of hide the details, and this is kind of really not nice.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the sort of thing we were talking about. And
Yeah,
and it can get worse than this, but
Yeah.
this is the sort of information overload that the details elements were introduced to solve. And Randy comments, it looks like Christmas with all the red and green.
Yeah. So for instance, here, I think this would be kind of, it's missing some things for sample implementation of flex slider, and then it's disabled, and yeah. So showing everything is definitely not good, because it's even very confusing for something like this. But yeah, this is 7, but still.
Yeah, so in my opinion, it's a definite improvement to have the details element rather than have it all expanded by default on real life sites like that. And I guess the issue was filed in 2012, 2013, when Drupal 8 was still in development, late 2013. And well, I won't repeat what I've already said. Again, anyone want to advocate for any of the solutions we've been considering, or shall we just try to choose one, go to a vote? Randy, you put an icon
Oh, just that I don't want to, I'm fine with closing it.
Okay. So I guess we've been discussing four options. We've already I think rejected the one proposed on the issue, so I'm not counting that. So 1, do nothing. 2, replace the disabled checkbox with some other icon. 3, the changes that Randy mocked up for us. Or 4, move some of that information to a new column. So who votes for do nothing, close the issue as outdated? That's the one that has my vote, and I get a thumbs up from Simo, and I get, oh, we're unanimous. Okay. Then let's close out the issue. Anything more to say about it?
I'd
We'll
like
just thank it and let it go.
But for the future, I'd be quite happy to explore the option to adding a third column or a new column that could display information and could be used for filtering, but that would be another issue.
Sounds good. Thomas?
I would just close and say that if the problem of people finding this is still an issue, then we should consider either the additional column or the just some form of filtering from the top. I like the WordPress approach, but it doesn't really matter how. But I don't think we should open a new issue unless people come to this issue and express themselves. Because for me, the number one interesting point is in all the years it's been open, there's been almost no interest. So I feel like we're trying to solve a problem that isn't there. And so I would just comment when I closed it.
Okay. So I guess the only question then is who volunteers to close the issue with a comment, and also if we want to open a follow-up issue about adding the additional column. The hard part is first checking to see if there's already an issue to do that before opening it. So any volunteers first for commenting on the existing issue? Okay, I think I can do that.
I was going to say, I can comment on the original issue.
Okay, thanks.
Just, we discussed it, decided to close it, done. Right?
Okay, and before you comment, I'll shortly after the meeting, I'll give you a little bit of boilerplate text to use as a framework for your comment. I'll post that in the Slack channel.
That would be excellent.
Okay. And Thomas, do you want to open an issue or search for an existing issue about adding an additional column?
Sure, but I would offer a bifurcated choice. Like, I don't know we need a column if someone decides to add the filtering. So I'm happy to open an issue in that regard. Is there any boilerplate or thing I should use to reference this?
I don't think so.
Okay.
And Simo gives us a link. And I'm still having trouble clicking on links in the Zoom chat, but it's to issue 2035079. Figure out what to do with the install uninstall modules page. Oh yes, this is an old issue. Here, I can do a quick screen share. I just opened up that issue. Just have to find the right window to share. Here we go. figure out what to do with the install uninstall modules page. As I said, it's issue 2035079, so it's about the same vintage from 2013 as the one we've been looking at. And this is sort of a meta issue, maybe not a meta issue.
It became a meta issue.
Oh, it did? Good.
Because in one of the UX meetings and the last ones, we ended up creating 3 child issues that are linked there for functionality as a first step before tackling the page itself.
Great, thank you. Oh, so many comments. So yeah, this is something that we've been thinking about for a long time. Oh, there's some of us. And it's postponed 3. So this was a little more than a year ago, the last comment. We decided to mark this issue as postponed on the 3 issues we opened last week, these 3 in the previous comment. So maybe this would be a good place to add a link to the new suggestion of creating a column, or for searching for whether there is already an issue for that. Okay, we have 5 minutes left. Is there, I mean, that's not enough time to talk about another issue. Anything anyone wants to say before closing the meeting? If not, then let's close the meeting a few minutes early. Thanks all for attending. And, you know, it is a hard problem that, you know, when someone has put some level of effort into opening an issue, adding comments to it, it's awfully hard to say, no, we have better things to do. And so often it is the right thing to do that. You know, we have enough issues on Drupal.org. We don't need to keep them all open just because someone has shown some interest in it. But of course, we want to do it considerately and not just randomly close out scads and scads of issues.
So Benji,
yeah,
should we be opening a new, like, I hadn't intended to suggest we open a new issue. I had just been suggesting that in our comment to close the issue, we said if it was really an issue, these were alternative things that we could do. That would, like, I don't want to add to the backlog of something that I still feel like even my suggestion is solving a problem that no one may be experiencing.
Okay, so you don't want to open a new issue.
Oh no, I actually have been preparing to open it. It's more, I take to heart the we need to reduce the backlog of issue noise. I just want to make certain that this is the action you guys want me to be taking. I am preparing, like while you were talking, I was working towards it, but I just want to make certain it's the right choice, and I'm not just, again, seeing a problem where none exists.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable suggestion, and if you think that it would be helpful for you to manage sites to have that filter, then go ahead and open that issue.
Okay, and if I don't think that it's that critical for me, then don't open an issue. That's the choice.
Right, and in the chat, Ralph says that he gives a +1 to your suggestion. And there is an issue for consolidating the filters across the admin UI. Can you give us a link to that, Ralph?
I have to search it. It's not directly related right now, but just as a heads up that there is an effort at the moment that different pages using filters using 3 or 4 different JavaScript solutions, and they want to consolidate that it is as one. I'll post it in the thread for today's meeting later when I found it.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you, Benji. That shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, welcome. Anything else? Okay. Well, hope to see you all next week, and thanks for coming.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a
Have a
nice
nice weekend.